but kept pushing, like, I really want this on the agenda, got it on the agenda, and it was standing room only that day. They flew in people, the librarian flew in people from the ACLU, I mean, you name it, from New York, they were all there.
Not necessarily people with a local interest.
No, absolutely not. And I just remember my legs were shaking, and but I knew that I had to stand up. And I just remember the day before I was worshiping, and I'm like, what are they going to do if they come after my family and my husband, my kids? And just remember being face down on the floor and going, you know what, God, I just surrender all of it to you. It's in your hands. I'm going to be obedient. There was that word again. I'm going to be obedient.
Hey, welcome to StoryPower TV. I am your host, Loren Norris. I'm really excited that you're here today. We have a guest in studio who has done probably the hardest thing you could possibly imagine, and that is go from being a mom, a family member, a wife, a daughter, to politics. I mean, for some of you, you just think that's crazy. Why would you even do that? And for others of you, you're like, well, what took so long? Why would we not be involved in that early on? Well, you're going to hear some stories from our guests today that are going to tell you a little bit about what that journey is like being in politics. I promise you, what you think it is and what it really is, those are two entirely different things. And you're going to hear some of that today from our guest on StoryPower TV. Please help me welcome our guest, Miss Melanie Graft.
Thank you for inviting me.
Very glad to have you here. So, what inspired you from the beginning to get involved in this world we know as politics?
My daughter inspired me, and something that happened. I was an at-home mom. I have 3 children, homeschool, and very much kind of personality. I'm very much an introvert, actually. Just kind of wanted to blend into the woodwork, extremely shy. But one day, my daughter was 4 at the time, and we went to the public library. And it was in the children's section that she picked up a book called This Day in June, and it was of a LGBTQ pride parade, and it was written for children, and it had pictures in there of a man dressed in a nun's costume with an upside-down cross, and it also had men dressed in S&M clothing. And she proceeded to ask me questions at 4 years old that I was not ready to answer and I didn't feel were appropriate. So I actually went home the day that she found that book because I was angry, and I really felt that it was important that I don't do anything out of anger, and prayed about it. And I was up all night long, and I just kind of felt like I was trying to make a deal with God, like, that book is so horrendous, somebody else is going to say something. It doesn't need to be me. It doesn't need to be me, because this was right at the time that the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, was making the opinion, and I say opinion because people get confused and think that the Supreme Court makes laws.
Right.
They don't. They make opinions.
Right.
So they had just passed the opinion on homosexual marriage. And I thought, this is just not the time for this. This is controversial. I'm very much an introvert. I just did not. So I'm like, Lord, somebody else will surely say something. But it kept coming across to me, are you going to be obedient? The word was obedient. Are you going to be obedient to what I'm asking you to do? So I went back the next day and I picked up that book. It was still in the same place. And I said, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's not age appropriate. And it took away my parental rights. I think it would be wise if you would move it. Never said to ban it or burn it, which they turned it into that later on. So we moved from the Metroplex, and I really thought that Hood County was this conservative Christian bastion, this
Pleasantville.
Yeah, Pleasantville. I did.
Everything's in black and white.
Yes, and I was very apathetic. I wasn't involved because I'm like, I'm good. The rest of the world, and really kind of selfish too. Like, I'm in my own little paradise here. Everything is fine, and I don't live in Austin. I don't live in wherever. Like, I'm good, and just kind of really looking back, very selfish that way. Like, forget about everybody else. I'm good. My family's good. But what happened was that situation blew up, and it went into commissioner's court. I asked my then commissioner to put it on the agenda and was faced with some pushback, and but kept pushing, like, I really want this on the agenda, got it on the agenda, and it was standing room only that day. They flew in people, the librarian flew in people from the ACLU. I mean, you name it, from New York, they were all there.
Not necessarily people with a local interest.
No, absolutely not. And I just remember my legs were shaking, and but I knew that I had to stand up. And I just remember the day before I was worshiping, and I'm like, what are they going to do if they come after my family and my husband, my kids? And just remember being face down on the floor and going, you know what, God, I just surrender all of it to you. It's in your hands. I'm going to be obedient. There was that word again. I'm going to be obedient. And so it was discouraging to find out that the then judge and most of the commissioners were not, they ran as Republicans. They said they were Christians. They were not for me. They were against me. And so that book was moved to the adult section, but upon further research, we discovered that there were 61 books at that time. I want to say it was about 2015. I might be incorrect, but I feel it was 2015 that this happened. 61 books in the children's section that were like that, and worse in the young adults section.
Wow.
And we did do, we went through their procedures of petitioning and all the paperwork, and they just took the paperwork and used it against us. And that's where the book banner, book burner, people call me book burning Barbie, all came out. But I realized at that point, I'm like, something's wrong with our local government, because I felt like we were peeling back the layers of the onion. And I'm like, it shouldn't be like this. And
well, those books didn't get in there by accident. I
no.
mean, it's not like we woke up one day and somebody's like, oh, I just delivered 61 new books to the library, and the library didn't know they were there, or the librarians were unaware of the content, or, we put them in there because we actually think they're great for the kids.
Right. And
there had to be a process, which means it had to be intentional, which means somebody believes that's a good idea.
Yes, and you bring up an interesting point, because we found out that a lot of those books, they just gave them for free.
Of course they did.
They just gave them for free. And then a lot of them, I don't know if you've heard of the Stonewall Awards, but it's an LGBT award that they kind of give for LGBT books or art or movies, things like that. And so I believe that book was a Stonewall Award. So people hear, oh, well, it's an award-winning book. Well, you need to find out what kind of award, because has to do.
Now, what were they congratulated for?
For pushing LGBTQ on children. And I just felt very strongly about protecting our children and protecting the minds of our children. I mean, I feel, I don't remember which leader it was. Was it Stalin that said something about, if you have the children, you have the future, something to that effect.
Well, I think it was Thomas Jefferson who also said the mindset of the school children in this generation will be the mindset of the government in the next.
That's where it's at. It's with the children. They're and so I felt like children needed to be protected. And here I was, and we were very much involved with our children, homeschooling, and I was faced with something that I had to explain to her at an age that was not at all appropriate at 4 years old.
You made a statement earlier. I want to clarify the word, the meaning, and the intent behind it. You said, she started asking questions I wasn't ready to answer. And part of me says, wasn't ready, meaning you didn't feel like it was the appropriate time, or do you mean I wasn't ready, meaning I wasn't prepared, I didn't know how to address this?
Meaning it wasn't the appropriate time. I knew how I would address it, but I just didn't feel that I didn't ever think I would have to address those issues at age 4.
I think my stepdaughter was 5 when I was driving her to school one day, and she asked me the question, is it okay for a girl to marry a girl? This would have been in the mid-90s. And I was flabbergasted that the question was coming up. I'm not even sure where it came from or how the notion came to her mind. So obviously the curiosity is there. We didn't have the proliferation of books that we have now in that category. Obviously there were no cell phones in the early 90s, so she wasn't seeing that stuff there. It wasn't on the TV shows that we were watching, because we were pretty strict about that. And she was attending a private school. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where that conversation even started, but obviously someone provoked that conversation in her mind. And it hit me pretty blindside. Now, fast forward 10 years, We're in our Ford Excursion at the stoplight, all the kids in the back, plus a couple of extras that are not ours. And the song by Katy Perry, I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It, came on. Mm-hmm. The song's playing, everybody in the car sing along with it. I'm just kind of trying to ignore it, but it's very sing-songy. It's designed to be addictive. And I hear some little voice from the back yell, I want to kiss a girl one day. And I turned the song off and readjusted my mirror. And I said, who said that? And of course, everybody's terrified. They're like, Dad just stopped the music to ask this question. He must be mad. So nobody wants to answer. And, you know, there's 3 girls. 2 of them are mine, or there's 4 girls in the back. 2 of them are mine. 2 of them are strangers. And I'm like, who said that? And then finally, my son, who at the time was probably 8, goes, I did. And I'm like, okay, buddy,
Thank God.
I'm totally okay with you one day kissing a girl. But if it's the 10 and 12-year-olds in the back seat, I'm concerned about that. And yet I know, you know, in the same way that Stalin and others have said, once you get the children's mind, you win the society. Further back than that, they've said if you win the music, you win the world. Mm-hmm. Because it transmits ideologies on so many different levels, the emotional level, the psychological level, the energetic level. And those ideas bypass the conscious mind.
Yes, especially like how you said that song was so sing-songy.
Yeah.
You know, kids I don't think always think about what they're singing like you and I do, but it's so catchy and then it gets stuck in their head.
And they repeat the
words.
words.
And they're subliminal.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's where it starts.
When we train people on story power, one of the things we tell them is from the mirror to the media, stories are going to change your life. So the story that you're telling yourself in the mirror, I'm fat and unlovable, nobody wants me, or I'm going to be a great success, or the day is just not going my way, or life sucks. Whatever that story is, as long as you continue repeating it, you're shaping yourself to live that out for reality.
Absolutely.
And when you can embed that kind of a story into a song, everybody's had a song stuck in their head that just plays on repeat in their head because the melody, or they're trying to figure out that one word, or why did he say it that way. But as long as that's playing over and over in your head, it's training your subconscious brain to believe that that's true.
Absolutely.
And then act it out without your cognitive interruption. Mm-hmm. That's a scary thing. All right, so fast forward. You go into the battle against the 61 books in the public library. You take it to the commissioner's court. They bring in reinforcements. Again, this is obviously intentional.
Yes.
How do you think the plan started, for lack of a better term, on the other side? Was it passive, that the agenda was coming from a few people who were very sneaky and crafty and nobody actually stood up against it? Or was it a wave of intent by several people?
At the time, the librarian we had, she was very liberal. So I think that she allowed it. I do know that there are good librarians there. We have one who she prays over every single book that comes in, you know. So I think at the time that librarian had some intent. I don't think that the commissioners at the time or the judge were even aware of what was going on until this occurred. And then with the ACLU, I think that was more from the then librarian. I think she was bringing all of those people in, and I don't know if she worked in conjunction maybe with some of the commissioners. I just know that they were not friendly to me. We tried to speak with them, and they all took her side. But the positive to that was I was then approached to run as precinct chair for the Republican Party. And after I saw that and I want to be clear too, my concern wasn't only for my daughter. First and foremost, it was for my daughter. But I started thinking about all the other children who would be affected and the other parents. And so the scope of my concern was even much larger. It's like, this is affecting not just my child, but all the other children, which is part of our community. It's affecting our community. And it's not healthy. And when I say not healthy, I'm going to fast forward a little bit, but I had the opportunity to speak to a lady who helped kind of shape and move the LGBTQ movement from California to Texas and kind of the acceptance of homosexual marriage. She's now a Christian and an amazing woman, but she said something to me that really stuck with me. She said over 90% of LGBTQ people have suffered some kind of abuse in their life, usually sexual abuse. So when I talk about this, I want to be clear that I do have compassion and empathy and that's one of the reasons I fought against this, is because I felt like it was an indoctrination for our children. And, especially young people, middle school, even high school kids, they're looking for their identity. And if they don't have a family that roots them in the foundation of Christ, they just kind of blow around with the wind.
Right. And so it's whatever's trendy and whatever's popular.
And it's very trendy. The whole movement is very trendy. And so
and today that trend is repelling ICE, right?
Yes.
But I've seen the street interviews where people are like, so what does ICE stand for? And they're like, I don't know, I just hate them. And you're like, is that even logical?
No, it's not.
I don't like cactuses either. I've never seen a cactus. I don't know what a cactus might do if I had one, but I don't like them.
But you're not going to start a movement to go cut them all down, right?
Sure they would, because they're
They would,
cacti.
yes. Yeah.
They're ICE. I don't know who they are, but we'll set them afire in the street. And for me, that vehement resistance is a learned behavior as well, and the blind submission to that vehement response is the most bizarre psychological thing that I've ever seen. The mob mentality is a part of that, where there's a whole lot of people kind of gathered around. But it also seems like there are trained psychological instigators who they're looking for the next thing, and they're moving from one topic du jour to another topic du jour just for the purpose of that resistance of what is normal. For me, the challenge is theologically, I believe that LGBT has some theological problems, and it puts your eternity at risk.
Yes,
theologically.
Absolutely.
Sociologically, I get it. If they're grown adults, what they do in their bedroom is their business. What I do in my bedroom with my wife is my business and nobody else's.
Right.
And I'm not going to put it out there in the streets for anybody to judge or to be obscure about. The difference is what I do in the bedroom with my wife, I don't take to somebody else's house with a storybook and go, here, teach your kids what I do with my wife. It's none of their business.
Exactly.
And you would think if they're making the claim, stay out of our bedrooms, that they would keep their bedroom to themselves as well.
Exactly.
But the reality is, not only are they saying this is what we do in our bedroom, we'll have a private pride parade, as private as a parade can be, so that you can't hide what we're doing in our bedroom. We're also going to prepare that content, and this is where the nefarious intent comes in for me. It's one thing to live a lifestyle that way. That's your choice as an adult.
Absolutely.
Your choice is your consequences, not my issue. But when your choice as an adult becomes prepared intent to negotiate with my child's inner being so that you can groom them into your world, because generally speaking, LGBT doesn't reproduce.
Right.
Then now we've moved to a different level. It's not your desire, your intent, your consequences. You're looking to rope somebody in. And I can only think Epstein Island.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're crossing the boundaries.
They're
infringing on our boundaries at that point.
And here's another sad reality that overlays that. When we look at so many law enforcement relationships today, someone defends their home with or without a weapon at the door jamb. This is my space, it's my property, don't come into my house. If you've got a warrant, we have a different level of discussion.
Right.
But if you just come to my door and decide that you're coming in to take my stuff, you're coming in to violate my space, you're coming in to violate my family, we're going to have a problem. And it's going to start at that doorway, if not at the front gate. But if it starts at the gate, my legal ground for the castle doctrine is exactly the same that it is at the front door, that it is at my bedroom door. So how far you come into my home is a different conversation. But at any one of those, lethal force is authorized according to laws currently. But in so many places, when that use of force is there, even a physical resistance as a shove, the homeowner is the one that's found guilty.
Right.
I mean, I've seen people declare, well, he was just climbing through your window to take your TV. Can't you just let him have the TV? You had to shoot him 3 times and now he's dead and we want $10 million from you. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I mean, at what point do we reward the criminal in the first place? And yet we can take probably 15 different categories of criminality and it's exactly the same, where the criminal has been converted to the victim.
Yes.
And the person who's trying to defend their space, their children from LGBT, their children from socialism, communism, their children from corrupt education,
yes,
their children from abduction. I mean, was that kid 9 or 10 years old? His little sister was being abducted by a guy who had a rap sheet of 13 other pedophilic type arrests. the guy grabs his sister, takes her off in the woods. He grabs his slingshot, shoots him in the head twice. The guy's unconscious. He takes his sister back inside, calls 911. The parents are being charged for the kid having possession of a slingshot. You're like, wait, what? I mean, and any other season of American history, this kid's a hero.
Right.
He did exactly what his parents trained him to do. He had the gall and the capacity to realize someone's in harm's way. I'm going to step in, and now we made him the perpetrator.
It almost feels like in the Bible where it says, you know, what's wrong is right and what's right is wrong. Like we're living in that.
It's all upside down.
Yeah, it is all upside down. And I think it takes strong parents to, we're at the point, you know, if you have children, you're going to have to defend them.
And you're going to have to draw a line in the sand and
Yes.
then stand there in the sand until...
And that's what was so discouraging at Commissioner's Court is like, because we would go and speak to some of these commissioners personally and bring the book and show it to them. And it's pretty revolting. And just like you said, drawing the line in the sand, and they're just wanting to stand right on the line, in the middle, or on the fence, per se.
As
you know,
the defenders,
and not taking...
But the others are charging across
Yes.
it.
And to me, it was like, you can't take a side for children, not just my daughter, but all children. You don't see how egregious this is and how awful this is, that you can't even pick a side to defend a child.
So what kind of conversation or pushback did you get from them? Did you get, you know, I'm trying to protect the career, or I'm trying to protect everyone, or they have rights, or I don't see what's wrong with it? What kind of answers did you get?
They didn't see what was wrong with it. I was too controversial. These people have rights too. But really, they didn't see what was wrong with it. They really didn't see what was wrong with it. It was just baffling to me because they all claim to be conservative Republicans, all of them. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, what is your definition of conservative? Because to me...
That's kind of that identify movement, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could put on a name badge that says I'm a giraffe, and
Yeah.
you know, according to the way people think today, if that's the way I identify, that's the way you have to treat me.
Well, and I think part of it too is, especially in Hood County, I mean, everyone's a Republican until they're not, because they know that's what they have to be to get elected in Hood County.
Right.
So it's okay to lie. It's okay to deceive. Now for me, it's not. It's not okay.
Taqiyya, I think, is what the Islam faith calls that. Taqiyya. I can lie to you.
Yes,
because it's to my
yep.
advantage. Yeah.
And I guess we have a little bit of that here in America too. But for me, in my beliefs, it's not okay to lie. I have deep conviction about that. So when I say I'm a conservative Republican, that actually means something to me. It means something, and part of that is that we defend children from things like that. That's just a small part of what being a conservative means to me.
Did you feel like Elijah on the Mount Carmel with the prophets?
Yes, and the other thing I think that was really disconcerting is at the time too, like I knew I was going to get pushback from the left. I was, you know, discouraged that I got pushback from the conservative Republican Commissioner's Court. But what really shocked me and really brought me to tears is I got pushback from my own church at the time, and from people I sat next to in church who said, there's something wrong with you, me, that you would even bring this up. Why can't you just live and let live? And you're doing something wrong. You're being hateful. And I was never hateful. It's not my nature to be hateful. I have friends who are LGBTQ, and I love them dearly. I don't agree. They know I don't agree with their lifestyle, but I love them and I pray for them. But I think that was the thing that kind of really was very revealing, is that in church, there were people who were that were just done with me because I had the gall to speak up and say something. And that was the part that was very eye-opening, because I guess and it was also sad to see how many pastors in the community, and I know this statement's going to ruffle some feathers, but I'm going to say it, didn't speak up. Very few, because we would ask the pastors to speak up or to help us. It was very few.
I think not just in Hood County, because I've kind of witnessed that in Hood County as well. We've only been here 3 years. But I've witnessed it around the world. I have a friend right now who's working on the project, very intimately working on the project to confront the corruption in the Nigerian government that is leading to the slaughter of Christians.
Yes.
This guy's been making trips over there. He's made 16, 17 trips to Nigeria, and not just heard about it, been in the camps where the families that were run out of their homes are now living, worked with the teachers who are starting this process of life all over again. And the Nigerian government is still lying about it to the world. They're telling the world that's not happening. He's like, let me show you the video. In fact, let's go live. I'll walk you right into the camp. They're like, those camps don't exist. Okay, then what is this? And so the blatant, obvious, and unfortunately, he's been invited to speak, and he's spoken several times in large arenas of church gatherings, was invited to speak at one that the arena held like 40,000 people.
Wow.
And 3 days before he was supposed to be there to speak, the national government came down on that church leader, and there was some kind of financial incentive for that event not to happen and have him speak. And I was like, so the corruption level of the government, local or national or global, that can use a little money or a little leverage or a little revelation to force you to submit, means at some point your fealty is not to the kingdom.
Yes, absolutely.
Your loyalty is to your own fiefdom, or your loyalty is to your local government, or your loyalty is to your national government, or your loyalty is to the global elites, but it's not to Christ.
And that's where it's an interesting point you made, because when I told you I was face down on the floor and I'm like, okay, Lord, whatever, is I realized at that point, and I've said it before, it's like, am I going to fear man or am I going to fear God? And I fear God more than I do man, and I'm like, I'm going to do what's right. And that's really, I've been through too much to know that this life is short. I've had 2 different types of cancer. I've had breast cancer and thyroid cancer, and God was gracious and helped us catch them both early. And I probably have more years behind me than I do ahead. And really, my whole purpose for everything I do is, at the end of the day, I just want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. And that's how I live my life, and that's my motive for everything I do.
I encourage you to go to StoryPowerAcademy.com and check it out. Look at the different classes, the different levels, the different things that are available. You can take a lot of them a la carte. But spend some time there and see if that's the kind of thing that would change the way you communicate as a leader, as a pastor, as a counselor, as a political leader. And if that will help you, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Again, only 10 people in the Elite Speakers. You will have to apply for that. But if you're a candidate, I'd love to have that conversation with you. I'm Loren Norris with StoryPower Academy. I look forward to seeing you inside.
Hi, my name is Christina Knowles, and I just got done taking Jay Loren's Story Power Masterclass. It was amazing. I took away so much information. One of the things that I really enjoyed being formally trained in media many, many years ago is the call to action. I will use that with every speaking engagement, and I'm so grateful that Loren just spoke truth into his teachings, and he is a true professional. And I know this might sound weird, but I've been taking certifications in different classes over the years, and Loren is not boring. I can't even believe I got here at 9, and then the class went by so fast that I was like, it's time to go already? And I was shocked that it was time to go already. So it's an